And these lovely little things are going back on. It's funny, I think a lot of ladies would be really excited about diamonds, but when I saw these this morning, this is the best thing ever.
It's great. Hey guys, today we're at the Dime City Garage, and I'm meeting up with Herm here to see what's going on.
What's going
So
on?
Herm, so Herm, tell me a little bit about. So you had this out racing last weekend, right?
We had this bike racing last weekend and the weekend prior. We had it at Gingerman for the first week, and then the second week of that we had a back-to-back race at Road America. So we raced all weekend. So now we're back and we're tearing it down and tweaking a couple things, fixing a couple little things, and getting ready for the next one up in Jersey in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. So what's going on with the seat?
Well, actually, this is going to be the third rendition of this seat. So, for some reason, I keep finding every time you race, you pick up on these little things and you bring these bikes back and you want to try and tweak it for the better. It doesn't always work that way, so you just keep going until you find that perfect fit. So this case, when I was up at Road America, it's a 4-mile track. It's a very long track. And there's a lot of straights, and you're finding yourself in this tuck position all the time.
Right.
One of the things I realized with my seat being in a tuck position is that it was way too low. And what was happening was I was having my elbows down here, resting just below my knees because of how low the seat was. So I thought, as I'm sitting there racing and thinking about this after in the pits, I'm thinking I need to raise that seat. So that's the first thing I did. I got back here and I took it out. The seat pan's not here, it's at the upholsterer, but basically the seat would sit almost to where you see it here. So it's kind of low. What I've done now is I've ripped this upholstery off, taken the seat pan, and I've made it a little higher. So it's going to be about 1.5 inches higher. Doesn't sound significant, but I hope it gives me that posture that I'm looking for without hitting my elbows on my knees. And then the other thing I did to accompany that and hopefully help with that as well, back again talking about that tuck position when you're on these long straights, obviously you want to have as much minimal wind drag as you possibly can. So what I've done with the handlebars, they're Clubman bars on here. I've taken them and I've cut them down the middle and took about 1 inch off down the middle, put them back together and re-welded them. Okay. So that'll help get my elbows a little closer into the bike. It doesn't seem like a lot, it's only 1 inch, but they were kind of out there anyway. It made me feel like a little bit of a tracker. They were kind of wide bars. They're the Dime City bars that we have, and they are kind of wide. They feel nice, but I'm going to see if that inch is going to make any difference. I don't know. We'll see up in New Jersey. Again, we make these changes. We don't know until we get on the track, so we'll give it a shot.
Perfect. Many of you guys may not know this, but there are also female racers in AHRMA racing. So today we're here with Dawn.
Hey.
So Dawn, tell me a little bit about how you got started with this bike.
So I've known the crew from Dime City for several years. I ride street bikes and have been on rides with these guys. And a couple of years ago, Scott Turner came to me and said, hey, we need a female out there racing. And I kept saying, I don't have time, work, this, that. And at some point this past year, I realized that if I didn't do it, I wasn't going to do it. So Herm tried to get me out on the track, or actually was successful in getting me on the track at Barber to do a parade lap. And when we came back, he said, well, what'd you think? And my exact words to him was, I am so screwed. So we started buying parts, bought a frame, and then actually on a work trip to Indiana, I found this frame and a couple of engines, rented a minivan, and drove them back down here, and we immediately started working on this bike. So it's interesting getting in. I've known these guys, like I said, for several years, but getting into this, we're not a race team, we're a family. So now I'm the only female here in the shop, and I have a lot of big brothers who guide me every step of the way. I didn't know anything about putting motorcycles together or taking them apart. And with the help of these guys, I've had my hands in every part of this motorcycle.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about in racing. Mm-hmm. What's the most scariest moment you've had racing?
Well, the scariest moment I had was at Kershaw. I crashed in a pretty dramatic way. There's no film of it. Unfortunately, Herm was far enough away from me that he didn't get it on camera. But the guy who was behind me said me and the bike were doing cartwheels. So that was by far the scariest moment. And after it was over, I was just more angry with myself, because it's one of those things, I'm trying to chase some guy down, and instead of racing my race, I did something that I wouldn't have normally done or hadn't done in those 2 turns, decided not to use my brake at all, went in too hot. and lost it. So that was by far the most scary moment.
Okay. So what have you got going on the bike today?
Today. Well, in the past 2 weeks that we were out, as everyone knows, there are only 2 headers on this bike, but I had 5 header breaks over the course of a weekend. So today we're actually stripping off the headers and putting new headers on both sides of the bike. It's a little bit of a Frankenstein project over here. So you can see here we welded it up several times. It kept breaking above and below the actual weld. Both sides were doing this. So those are coming off. And these lovely little things are going back on. It's funny, I think a lot of ladies would be really excited about diamonds, but when I saw these this morning, this is the best thing ever.
It's great. That's great. So, again, thank you to Dawn for sharing her bike with us. And make sure you subscribe here to Dime City Cycles and check us out on dimecitycycles.com.